Coach, what's good?
Top of the morning. What's going on, Cess?
Now, joining the conversation, we talking headlines from the sidelines. Y'all know what it is. It's your favorite IT with Uncle Tendencies, hanging out with Coach. We finna catch up. So, what a week, Coach. Okay, we finished up championship week. We waiting on selection Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things to talk about, but we wanted to first take a minute and do some highlighting on some coaches that maybe don't get highlighted often. So, Niele, Ivey. Let me tell y'all about. I'm gonna just give a little background on Niele real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit about her because I was blown away once I started really doing my little deep dive because it was stuff that I didn't recognize. So let's just first say that she helped Notre Dame win his first natty in 2001 as a player. Okay, she spent 5 years in the WNBA from 01 to 05 as a point guard. She was drafted 19th by Indiana Fever, played for the Fever, Detroit Shock, Phoenix Mercury, also the mother to Jaden Ivey of the NBA Detroit Pistons. When she finished in the WNBA, she spent 12 seasons at her alma mater as an assistant coach to Muffet McGraw before spending a year as assistant coach with the Memphis Grizzlies, where she was handling pregame scouting reports, individual skill work with players. I want to say the coach said that the team was undefeated in the games that she scouted. And players gave her credit for being a real, excellent for developing games. She also had like a pregame ritual with John Morant where she spent some time talking with him on the sideline, kind of looking at stuff on the phone, kind of before every game. One year at Memphis, and then she got called back to her alma mater to be the first Black female coach in school history, the fourth ever women's basketball coach in school history. I mean, you get that job, you got that job forever. Like how Cardi B said it, forever. Like that. You got it forever like that. That type of job, okay? It was crazy because she took over during the pandemic. So that was kind of an up and down year, kind of really weird, kind of just getting her footing, and then just also kind of just dealing with what everybody else was dealing with in the world, lockdown, opening back up, all of that kind of stuff. But second year really got some traction going in the program. She went 24-9, third in the ACC, got a top 20 ranking, went to the Sweet 16. Third year, okay, this is the one, this is when you get to talk about stuff to remember, okay? Won her first regular season ACC title. Excuse me. They posted a 27-6 record, 15-3 in the ACC. They beat UConn, Virginia Tech, and Florida State that year. But despite injuries, since she's taken over the program, she's kind of been on a steady trajectory of kind of just building, stacking wins on top of wins. They building. The team is starting to connect. You're starting to see that it's kind of starting to take her personality, because it had been Muffet McGraw program for so long, right? So you got to give it some time to just to be able to let that leadership be able to find its own way, kind of put her fingerprints on it, if you will. And she's really set a foundation for success with a young core player. She brought Olivia Miles in there. She brought Sonia Citron in there. I want to say she was the only coach in the nation that year to sign 3 top 20 recruits. She got Hidalgo, she got Prosper, and she got Emma Reish. Hidalgo and Reish came in 2023, and Prosper came like a semester and a half earlier. But the future is really looking bright. The future is really looking bright, especially with Hannah Hidalgo in there. You had Olivia Miles hurt this year. Sonia Citron, really chipped in. They got some great experiences as young players, especially Hannah as a freshman. when you add Olivia Miles back in there with what she's bringing in, um, Notre Dame's future is really looking bright. Uh,
Mhm.
the crazy thing that was interesting about Niele is that he's a common link to all 9 of the program's Final Four appearances. She was either a player or an assistant coach in all of them, and she's put 20 years in Notre Dame. So that's just a little background on her. Coach, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Let me know what you think. Talk to me.
Well, so it's interesting that you mentioned that. I was looking at a lot of that background myself and did some digging. And one that stood out is that it mentioned that she worked closely with players. And when you mentioned John Morant, there's another player that stood out that she was responsible for. Well, not responsible, but highly influenceable. And that player was Skylar Diggins. And when you look at players like that, and you look at the players and the talent that she's brought in now, it's not a coincidence that she highlights a guard-driven offense, a high-pace offense, similar to how she used to play. Aside from that, she's able to connect, from what it seems, with any type of player, um, regardless of what their skill set is. She's finding players that's going to fit her system. Now, you mentioned earlier about the records. I want everybody to understand something. Seth gave a nice overview, but that year, first year she came in, they were 10-10. That next year, they were 24-9. Let's put that into perspective. That's a huge turnaround, and it is very difficult to win that many games in a reputable D1 school, regardless of what talent you have. Um, I also see that, like you said, she's trending up. So I see that she's putting together a program that's going to have that long lasting durability. Like you said, with her job security, the same way. Her program is going to be together for a long time. And here's the scary part: when you coach the way that Ivey coaches, you attract players that want to come to your program. So it'll be real interesting to see in the next couple of years which players come to her program. Fun fact about Ivey. Fun fact. There's some real digging on Ivey. You want to know who she wanted to play for, Seth?
Who's that?
She wanted to play for North Carolina.
Oh, because she was a big Michael Jordan fan, right?
Yeah, paid her own, used her own money, went
Mm-hmm.
down to a camp, and the coach didn't get a chance to see her play. But
Uh,
Notre Dame's coach
mm-hmm.
was coming to her games in St. Louis and watching her. And that's when she said, you know what? This is where I'm going to go. So I'm only saying that to say, in the context of our conversation right now, she's loyal
Oh yeah,
to
absolutely.
the program.
Oh
She's
yeah, it's a big.
loyal to what she's doing. Um, um, yeah. So, I mean,
She got 20 years at Notre Dame, so I mean,
mhm,
she's proved her loyalty there, and just a very young head coach. So I hope they give her the time and the space to develop her program
mhm.
like they've given other people. Because Notre Dame, like the oldest college ever, ain't it? They like 700 years old,
Yeah.
and and they've
Yeah.
only had four. They've only had four coaches
Hey,
on
hey,
their women's
hey.
basketball team.
One
That's
other
all I'm
thing.
saying.
So let's just name some of the proteges. Now we mentioned Skylar Diggins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jewel Lloyd,
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay Allen,
Mm-hmm.
Erica Agumbuale.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, the
So
list
phenomenal.
is
So
going to
phenomenal
continue to
talent.
go.
So
Yeah,
phenomenal talent.
yeah.
Absolutely.
One more stat about Ivy:
Yeah.
she's able
Sure.
to
Absolutely.
attract top 12 incoming classes in 9 of her last 10 years.
Oh, and I
Top
expect
12.
that'll continue. I expect that'll continue.
I mean, but now,
Um,
let's be honest, that changes when you're the head coach. There's even
uh,
more, pool that you have, so to speak, and all of my research on different coaches, most of her stats and like the stories that are about her rest on recruiting and
mhm.
scouting.
Now, and it's weird. She averaged over 20 some points. It seemed like at Notre Dame, but when I looked at the WNBA numbers, it just didn't seem like the same player.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know if there was injuries there. I don't know what actually was going on there. If she was used more as a backup, if they didn't use her properly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it didn't seem like she was able to really translate her game over into the WNBA for a sustained time. So I don't know if it was just that she was just meant to be a coach, but she went on to do some phenomenal things. Like I said, Notre Dame don't have nothing positive in their basketball program that she wasn't attached to. So with that type of foundation, you only expect her to keep going up. But I
You know,
expect
I'm
Hannah
smiling, right?
Hidalgo. What's that?
Because when I was doing this research, I literally thought of you and your theory. We need to find some music for that theory. Your theory that great players do not make great coaches. And I was
What?
thinking about that. Wait, let me see, because I just thought about it. And I'm not, let me
Mm,
say this. I'm not saying that Niele was not a great player, but I was looking at those numbers too, and I'm like, wow, she played for these teams, and these numbers are, again, it's another level of WNBA. So not saying that
I
she's
mean,
not a good player, but like her pro career, I
yeah,
was just like, whoa.
I'm really interested to take a deep dive there.
So I just
It
laughed.
didn't translate, especially not for somebody who led a school that never had a national championship to a
Right.
national championship. But with that said, I do expect Hannah Hidalgo to get her to her first Final Four
Mhm.
and potentially playing in the national championship game. That core group of young ladies
A
that she has
golden
there over the
child.
next few years.
It makes more sense now that she's a
Um,
golden child.
definitely on my watch. But with that said, coach, you got some work to do. So you be here and there. I don't know who your team is really. Purple shirts, Clemson sometime. I don't know. You be,
Oh,
all over the place. Uh, then it's like, oh, but did you see Duke? But Fairfield, you better watch out in Princeton. So many things that you say. But so as we go into this tournament, who 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 are the teams, or give me your reasoning, because these are the teams that you said, these were the four that you said had the best opportunity to end that undefeated season
mhm.
on this here screen. So which one are you starting with?
I'll start with Tennessee.
All right,
And the
Tennessee. Let's
obvious
go.
reason I'm going to start with Tennessee is because of their recent performance, where,
Hmm.
again, moral victories aren't really what we talk about,
Right.
but we do talk about performances. And it's safe to say that all college basketball fans, I know I was shocked at the way that game played out, the way Tennessee played. And they are the only team that could say they were a second away from beating the best team in women's college basketball. And the way they did it, they utilized one of their best players in the country, Rakia, who found her spots. It was very clear that throughout that game, there was a plan to get her isolated to score. But towards the end, it just came down to the will. One leg shots, falling off balance. In that moment, she stood out and showed why she's one of the best players in the country. So the reason why I say Tennessee is because when you look at a game like that, of course, it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. But I think that their game plan in that game was very successful. They packed it in. They did not want to allow the bigs to win that game for South Carolina. It came down to me, the bench in that game. Wiley was phenomenal as usual. But I think that when you have a team like this with that type of talent, when you have a talent that stands out like Rakia, they have a chance, especially when they've seen the landscape before. And I always say it's difficult to beat a team multiple times. And if these teams were to meet again, we're talking hypothetically, they could really give South Carolina a run for their money and potentially beat them. Um, that's the overall. I want to get too deep into the other things. I want
Oh
to hear. I
yeah,
want to hear your.
don't get too deep yet.
Well, no, because I
Don't
want to hear your
Yeah,
response to that.
don't get too deep yet, man. Because first of all, everybody we watched the game together. I
Mhm.
don't know. Were you there? Were you on the live with us? I don't know where you were when
Came
that
towards
game
the end.
took place. Yeah, okay. So you was there. You saw the part that I'm getting ready to talk about.
Hmm.
So there's a certain thing in basketball, like where you break somebody's will, right? And Tennessee put up a hell of a fight. They put up a hell of a fight. Spear, Rakia Jackson, uh, Key, from everything that they were able to do, right? But at the end of the game, after they had done everything that they could do, like I mean, that's like really leave it all on the floor. To have Dawn Staley with 1.1 seconds left in the game, have the wherewithal to just say, you know what, it's Tennessee. I feel like we just supposed to win. Camilla, shoot a three. You ain't never shot one all this season. Go ahead, shoot you one. Like normally I don't do this, but go ahead and hit him with the remix, kind of like that. That girl let that shot go, and every ounce of oxygen left out of Kelly Harper body. Listen, I'm still concerned about her. I haven't seen her on TV since. Okay, I'm not sure that she did. I'm not sure that she did a post game conference. Okay, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Now I did say potentially. Rakia could come and give us that work again, especially if she got an opportunity to play us again. Just because I don't think that she was fully satisfied with the way they showed up, even though they played us to a 1 point game, to a 1 point win. I feel like she may would show up and try to give us 50 or something, right? But when I look at what we did, I wouldn't expect Pow to only have 3 points in the game again.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't expect Bree Hall to only have 6 points in the game again. I wouldn't expect Ashlyn Watkins to only have 6 points in the game again. And so when I look at those type of numbers, and Chloe Kitts at 8, and she was almost right there at her average. And then to have Cardoso go 13 and no, not a double. I would expect Cardoso to have a double here. The other thing that I noticed is that we didn't have a lot of assists. We've been the number 1 assisted team in the nation. We didn't have a lot of assists here, which means
13 to be exact, which is interesting.
We weren't really running our offense the way that we run it. So with us kind of breaking a wheel, not having such a good game.
But when you talk about that, okay, let's talk about some of those stats. You mentioned that. That has in large part to do with Tennessee's defense, does it not? I mean, South Carolina was 4 of 15 from the 3-point line. Now, some of those were open misses, but all of them weren't open misses. Some of that attributes to how Tennessee was defending the 3-point line.
I don't want to discount what Tennessee did, but I also felt like we took our foot off the gas. We were up by 23 some points. So I feel like we got a little comfortable.
Absolutely.
I think that was the scare that we needed. So I for us to get out the way we started that game, which was how we want to start every game, which was really fast and really quick. I don't want to discredit what they did. They were able to create the things that they were able to create, the turnovers and the changes in the game that they needed to be able to catch back up. But what we learned in this game is that you can't play 39 minutes, 58 seconds, and 58.9 seconds. You got to play 40 minutes. You got to play 40 minutes. So, with all of that said, I think that was a scare for the ladies. I think we, even though we left the tournament with the MVP of the tournament and, players on the all-tournament team, we left the tournament with a bad taste in our mouth. And we're going to be looking to prove a point. So, I understand Tennessee. They played us the closest. These last 2 games, they played us really well. In that first
game,
I'm
glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. So, see, that's what I like. You give props where props is due.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the first game, they didn't play us very well the first game. Right. But I don't know that Rakia played in that game. So because she was out with some injuries. So I also think that played a little bit into Tennessee's chemistry coming down the line. Maybe they just didn't have enough games together. So a fair point with the way that they played us. But I think that we figured them out. Who you got next?
Okay, I'm going to go with USC. And again, you see a theme here. We're talking about teams that have outstanding individual players who, and let me say this, the underlying factor as to why I picked these teams is because they have players that can put the team on their back, so to speak. But then if the supporting cast has one of those games, so to speak, you could really have a situation where they could win. So the obvious is going to be Juju Watkins.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The reason why I pick USC is because South Carolina has seen Rakia. They've seen some good individual players, but they have not seen a player like Juju yet. And I say that because of what Juju is bringing to a game. She does everything. So even in this last tournament with Stanford, who was the number one seed, arguably one of the best teams in the nation. Juju, here's what's interesting about that game. What if I told you that Juju was not the leading scorer in that game, but yet they still beat him by 13? Stanford being the number one seed. Juju had 9 points.
Yeah, well, of course Juju had 9 points. Of course Juju had 9 points. But let's be honest about why Juju had 9 points. The reason that Juju had 9 points was because Stanford came in with a scheme directly to limit Juju Watkins' scoring. She came in their house like Goldilocks did the Three Bears and gave him 51. Coach, what are you saying? Yeah, she better only had 9 points.
So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad
Coach
you
had to
said
put
that.
him together. You seen remember the Titans? Coach put them together and said, they better not get another yard. She better get another point. 9 points. Their whole thing was somebody other than Juju is gonna have to beat us. So
I'm glad you said that.
Before I continue, you go ahead with that.
No. I'm glad you said that. So now when we think about Coach Staley, I have not seen Coach Staley say we're going to create a plan or a scheme to stop an individual player. She has the utmost confidence, one, in her man-to-man. I mean, she may run another defender at the ball sometimes, but I think that her players will be chomping at the bit to take on that challenge and check Juju, like, straight up. Like, okay, we can check you straight up. And I think that would just be an intriguing matchup. I think that it'll be a high-paced, high-scoring. I think that Juju will find her spots to score. And let's not forget about Mackenzie Forbes, who gave Stanford 26. You got Kayla Padilla, who gave him 13. And then you have Rhea Marshall. So they run a heavy guard-oriented offense. And that's why they play very, very fast. Sometimes they have 4 guards on the floor. That's that what I call West Coast ball. When you're that high paced, that guard oriented, you're knocking down your shots. This is not a cliche. You could be anybody on any given day. That's why I picked South Carolina just to add to. Southern California, just to add to the mix that you have one of the best players as a freshman in the country. That's why I picked USC. So that's what I got for you on that one, Cess.
So here's a couple of things that's interesting. USC is a team we haven't seen before, so that would be interesting. I think the Stanford gave a great blueprint on how to take Juju out of the game. Now, when I take Juju out of the game, the thing that's different about me and the Gamecocks from Stanford is way more athletic, way more speed. Now, the thing that's really interesting about Juju is that Juju is a really big guard. She's gonna be bigger than any guard that I got on my team. She's 6'2", listed as 6'2". I guess that's pretty accurate. So the closest guard that I have to Juju's size is gonna be it would be a Tessa Johnson, because Tessa's at like 6'1". I think Bree Hall is at like 6 foot. Raven would maybe be giving up a little bit more size than I want at 5'9". So it would be interesting, and Pow Pow also at 5'9". So would you come with a Fuwali at a 5'10"? Would you come with a Tessa Johnson, who I think also plays great defense? She had her first 2 blocks in I think this season in the tournament. She's coming along at the right time. But the thing that I didn't realize about Tessa was she came in so decorated into South Carolina out of Minnesota, right? So a proven player. has played on the big stage. So it'll be interesting to see a Bree Hall. Would you try to put an Ashton Watkins? Would you send a double at Juju? How you would deal with that? But I don't think when I look at the Trojans roster after Juju, yeah, I don't know that they have the foot speed and the athleticism to be able to keep up with what we would be bringing there. I do know that they have.
Okay, hold on, Seth. Hold on.
I do know that
I'm
they.
sorry. I rarely cut you off, but hold on.
Go ahead.
Now you said the foot speed.
Mm-hmm.
SC, meaning Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
they make you play their pace. They're going to play fast.
Okay.
So there's a chance that Coach Staley may go smaller, like you mentioned. She may go smaller, and that gives them a great chance to kind of level the playing field. I mean, that's what they've been doing. Most of the teams, matter of fact, the top teams in the pack have size. They're one of the only teams that don't have size like that. Well, in no disrespect, size that can pose a threat. This is how they're beating teams. They're running 4 guards at a time.
I'm gonna push back on that.
Okay.
Until this last game, you was talking about Juju that had no help.
I did.
All season.
I did.
So now all of a sudden she got help. And
Well.
So here's my thing. My thing is always one person can get down. You can go and get down. I'm gonna stop everything else, and I trust my defense to be able to stop everything else. And then when all else fails, I know you got a 6'6" junior down there, but I got 6'7". So there's that safety valve as well. But like I said, that Tessa Johnson for Wiley, Watkins, Fagan on the floor, that's hard to deal with.
And I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you pointed out.
It's like cafeteria style. It's like cafeteria style on the bench. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
No, that's true. Hold on, and let me say this.
She can package it up however she wants to.
I'm glad you pointed out.
I think that SC of the teams that you have up there, SC is most interesting because we haven't seen them, but they haven't seen us, and so then.
Well,
so
they have seen a team with some size, though. They see that all the time. And we agree, Pac-12 is a gauntlet. Now, Colorado disappointed us, as we know, kind of towards the end of the season, they weaned off. But the Pac-12 is kind of built on size. So they've been seeing this. And let me just clarify. I'm glad you brought up the point about I did say Juju didn't have any help. You're absolutely right. But I also said this is why we watch the tournament plays. I was surprised at the way the supporting cast stepped up, and it showed me. I mean, that's the purpose for the conference tournament. It gets you ready for the big dance. It showed me a lot.
Okay, and I get that. But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that I'm going to say. Number one, I when it comes down to coaching, I'm gonna give the coaching nod to Dawn Staley, right? When it comes to the conditioning of my players, I'm going to give the nod to Bodies by Molly Benetti, right? And when I look at what we did in common, yes, Peely gave us some work, but we beat Utah. Utah beat USC at home, and they beat USC at USC. So when I look at those type of things, I think it could be a tough game, but I think we will be ready. But of the ones that you got up there so far, that would be the one that I would say would be the most interesting for me. But let me hear what you got for the other ones.
That's interesting that you said they were, because I'm gonna go to Notre Dame. I thought you would say Notre Dame was the most interesting.
You got to remember that I seen them.
Okay.
So when I'm saying most interesting, it's like I haven't seen you. I haven't seen SC, so I haven't seen Juju speed. I haven't seen Hannah. I seen you, Hannah. You gave us what you gave us, and we gave you 100. And that's no slight at Hannah, because she's
I know.
But I'm saying why I'm saying SC versus everybody else, and I understand that you probably would say that was really early in Notre Dame season. They've come along, and I get all of that. right? And Notre Dame will probably look different next season, but then it comes down to again, the conditioning, the preparation, the experience. So I seen Notre Dame. We invited them to Paris for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because we respect them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we have great respect for Coach Ivey. So we didn't invite them to Paris to because we to slight them is what I'm trying to say. Like we invited them to Paris because we wanted to put on a good show, and we respected what they were going to be able to do. But we've seen them,
Mm-hmm.
and we've done some growing and some changing along the way too. So go
No,
ahead, though, Coach.
no. And here's the thing. During the conversation, we do not make excuses for the time of the games. We do not make excuses for the personnel you have on the floor. A game is a game, and that's what we give our opinions on, our highlights, our stats, our conversations. So glad you said that. So let me tell you why I picked Notre Dame. One, again, individual talent. You have Hidalgo.
Mm-hmm.
They have been trending upwards since about the middle of the season, even in some of their close losses that they had. They're gelling more as a team. You see Ivey's handprint all over this team. Another team that runs a 3-guard offense with 2 forwards. No true center anywhere in sight. You have Citron, as we mentioned earlier, when we were highlighting Coach Ivey's illustrious career. She gave Vitek 21. Then you had Maddie Westbell, who gave him 19. What's interesting is that Kylie Watson didn't give him anything. Donut. That's not going to happen a whole lot of times. That's not going to happen for her to have a donut, 4 rebounds and 3 assists, similar to what you mentioned. Now, again, I'm not saying she's anywhere on the level of SC, meaning South Carolina, but I do not expect a player like Kylie Watson to have a donut if they were to meet a team like this. Similar to South Carolina, Notre Dame plays a lot of players. They go about 8, 9 deep. Well, about 9 deep. Now, are they minutes that you're like, oh, wow, they got in and did everything? No, not really. But, and then you also hit something. They've seen each other before. We're talking about, now let's talk about coaches. Coach Ivey is known for her scouting, her game preparation. I would say that out of all the teams that I mentioned, and I didn't get to the last one, which everybody probably knows by looking at the screen who I'm going to talk about, Ivey is the most dangerous, in my opinion, opponent as a coach to Coach Staley because of what she can do as far as scheming, game planning, game management. She's not going to be off of her square. I'm sure she's watched that first game probably over 100 times to find different ways to make adjustments. And I know you're going to say Coach Staley is going to make adjustments too, which she has and will. But with that and just the chance of a Hannah Hidalgo having an extraordinary game, which, again, I'm going to eat my own words. I did say the lights may be too big for the Golden Child. I couldn't have been more wrong. Hannah Hidalgo is ready for these lights. And I think a game like this would be one of those games where she's showing, like, look, I'm here. I mean, we're talking about, what is she, 5'8", 5'9", 23 points, 12 rebounds.
Hannah, don't do that. Don't do that. We around 5'6". Don't do that.
5'6". Okay.
Don't do that. This why she's one of my favorites, because
12 rebounds, 6 assists.
I'm almost right with her shoulder.
She rebounds like a forward out there.
Hannah is a dog.
She's a dog.
Hannah's a dog.
But like you mentioned, you got Citron. If Citron puts together, and let me be clear, everybody, we're talking about beating the juggernaut of SC, meaning South Carolina. They're a juggernaut, okay? You saw what happened with Tennessee. Like you mentioned, they had to have probably one of their worst games of the season for them to have a chance. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about who has a chance to beat them, who has a chance to beat this team. And I think that if you had Hidalgo, Citron, Watson doing her contributions, Maddie doing what she's supposed to do, they could beat South Carolina. That's just, and then with Ivey. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Oh, let me jump in here. A couple things.
Absolutely.
Couple things. Couple things. Um,
I don't like when you do that because that means you got something.
no, well, I'm gonna ask a question. Even if I was to concede to you and say,
Mhm.
out of these two teams, Hannah Doggo's best player on the team, best player out of both teams, would you agree that the next 10 players would be picks from South Carolina before you picked any one of these players from Notre Dame?
Yes,
Okay. So, okay, we agree there. Then
I
the
do.
other thing here, the other thing that I see that's interesting is that they don't have anybody over 6'5" on their team. And
Mhm.
so the Cardoso safety valve, if I decide to just slow this thing down and just dump it into her, um, becomes a different type of game. Um, the other thing that I'm looking at here is even though they have a pretty good amount of juniors, when I think about the juniors on my team, the juniors on my team have national championship rings, which means they've been to that stage under the hottest of lights and got it done. And so at some point, the experience comes into play in this tournament. Um, the height, I think, comes into play. And then I think just the overall talent of the individual players on the floor come into play. And while like I said, if I was to concede that Hannah was the best of them all, and I, I ain't saying that she might be 1A, 1B with me for with those freshmen, but she's done a whole lot more with less. And that's no slight on Citron. That's no slight on Maddie Westbeld. That's no slight.
Mhm.
That's no slight on any of these ladies. But um, to me, the best team in and I'm gonna say this, and we still gonna talk about the teams that you have up here. To me, the team that has the best chance of beating SC is our second string, and I mean that because
I
I
know
think
you
that
do.
because I think that any of these ladies could be starting anywhere else, and it's a tremendous sacrifice they make with the purpose of winning a national championship, and so that's what the preparation is about. It's not about getting to an SEC tournament. We don't want 8 of them in the last 10 years. It's not about that. It's about the national championship. And so, they gotta come on, campus day one, walking like D1 athletes, and then they're being held accountable like D1 athletes. And so I think that Notre Dame is really trending in the right way. I think that Coach Ivey is doing a magnificent job there. I think that she's laid a great foundation with 20 years there at at Notre Dame between assistant coach, player, and now head coach. I just think that the program is still a few years behind where I see a South Carolina as far as like depth of talent, and preparation, and people kind of knowing the Gamecock way, if you will, kind of like the Patriot way. Like it's kind of inbred, and you got to kind of pick it up, or you'll get froze out on the team by the players that are there. So I just think that the experience, the size, and then just individual athleticism and talent would take care of Notre Dame this year. But I'll give you a chance to address that.
Well, the
That's
only
all I
thing
got.
I would
That's all I got
address.
there.
No, no, that was good. That was good, Seth. I mean, my only rebuttal is with Cardoso. I
I'm
think
sorry.
that yeah.
I'm sorry. Before you say that, there's one more thing that I wanted to say. The fight made a family that was already like this
Hmm.
even tighter. Like South Carolina is gonna show up
Hmm.
at whatever city we're assigned to with the Detroit versus everybody attitude. We've been talked about negatively. They're talking about Cardoso like she's a villain. So I just feel like that brought us to even more together. And that could be real. That could happen right at the wrong time for everybody else, but right at the right time for us. If you just needed one more thing to put on the bulletin board, here it is. So
No,
I'll leave it with that.
no, no, no. That's yeah, that's true. I'll say this. I'll say that I think that with Cardoso, you're right. There would definitely, we can't predict exactly what Coach Staley would do, but it's very quite possible that there would be, hey, let's pound them down low. My only rebuttal to that is foul trouble. Notre Dame is very good. Their guards in particular at getting in the paint and getting bigs in foul trouble. So I would say, to me, the bigger threat in a game like this to Notre Dame would be Watkins, because Watkins is more, versatile as far as like, her defensive prowess and getting out on the break, as far as like up and down the court. But that's the only, like, everything you said, I don't have anything to really.
I guess with Watkins, the only thing I would say about Watkins is Watkins' game still right now, as she's still getting her college game legs, and her college game feel for the college game, is that her game can go easily on how tight or loosely the whistles are with the referees. When they tight on the whistles, the fouls come a little quicker and it throws her off her game. So while I would expect her to be able to be, we want her to have a great defensive game, I know in the past that's caused some issues in her being able to kind of get her into a rhythm. And so
I think this will be her type of game. It's
I hope so. So
this will be her type of game. You know what I mean? Like,
what I've said about Ashlyn is that based on how she played in the SEC tournament, based on the fact that she won it the 6th Woman of the Year, she's definitely a dark horse for most outstanding player of this tournament if she shows up and just goes Ashlyn. So I'm just waiting to see how she shows up in game one, especially with Cardoso being out. So I know that we'll be taking that extra responsibility on. So go ahead, Coach.
I think that
your last one here.
Well, I think that this was just the last point on that. I think that would be her. I think that this will be her type of game. It's going to be up and down, and her game is transition, as we know. So I just really think she would be more. And again, no disrespect at all to Cardoso. I'm not one of those Cardoso haters. I think Cardoso is very talented, but I think that the bigger threat to this game would be an athlete like Watkins getting up and down that floor, because she'll have a lot of opportunities on fast breaks, because Notre Dame does give up a lot of fast breaks.
Absolutely.
They want to play fast, and they want to, they want to outscore you. They know they can't lock you down, so they want to get up and down.
It could be Dunk City. Dunk City. But
all right. Okay. Everybody who tunes in to our great platform knew who I was going to talk about last. It's the LSU Lady Tigers. I'm not even going to spend as much time on LSU as I have with the other teams. But I'm just going to say, if they were to meet again, that would be the third meeting this season. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very difficult to beat somebody 3 times. And I know it's been 12 years, 16 years since they beat them. But I'm looking at matchups. To me, LSU matches up the best with South Carolina as far as, player for player. I think that, the only concern I've had, which held to be true, is the bench. They run out of gas when they play against South Carolina because they run out in droves. I'm sure that the question would be, well, how do you change that in March Madness? Well, the answer is you don't. There's no way to fix that. But what you can do is tighten up your system and not give away these points that you left out on the floor. In the first game, LSU, now I know this is debatable, but in my opinion, LSU controlled that first half of the first game they played. I know a lot of, our listeners and viewers chimed in on that and said, well, Coach, they only really won the first quarter as far as but I never said dominated. I said had control of without Fuwali's 3-pointer. We're looking at a 9-point lead going into halftime in that first game. Okay. Second game, the obvious things. I'm not going to dwell on the whole physicality, the fight, but I will say the physical aspect is kind of what LSU wants as far as playing against South Carolina. I know before we had quite the debate about teams trying to bully and all of that. I think it's clear that neither side is going to get bullied in this contest. But it will get physical. And I think that physicality favors LSU because if those whistles are out the way they are, that's really the only way that South Carolina can be slowed down. South Carolina speeds the game up against LSU, even though LSU started out the season being one of the highest scoring teams. That slowed down a lot, especially when they play South Carolina. South Carolina was not allowing that. So I think that there's enough good players on LSU. If they come together, they could pull it off. And those I'm going to name. We know about Angel Reese, obvious. We got Morrow, Flau'jae, and Michaela. We don't know what I hope I pronounced it right. Poa, who had the concussion. If she's coming back 100%, who knows? But the person that really needs to step up is going to be Rosario. And I'm not talking about like major points, but in 8 minutes, she had 3 rebounds, 3 points. I mean, that's not horrible, but that's the second tier size on the team that you could try to do something. But I just think that with the combination of the familiarity with the teams, the rivalry that has started from the last game, and LSU tired of getting beat up on, let's just call it what it is, I think that they have a great chance, if they meet, of beating South Carolina.
Man, I a really great response. I promise I had a really great response. I had a really great response to LSU until and listen, this is no knock on this young lady, but until I heard you say the person that needed to step up to fix this thing was Rosario. Oh man, listen, Del Rosario. That's what you said. That's what you said.
We're talking about. I mean, because you know we're gonna.
Okay, no. Listen, let me. Okay, no. See, here's the problem with this whole thing, and here's the problem with LSU. Not so much like Tennessee, where we took their soul or nothing like that. That's not it. We unlocked something, and we unlocked Malaysia Fuwali. Malaysia Fuwali dropped 24 points on LSU in 17 minutes, and everybody that you named, except last tier Poa, was on the floor. Okay, Michaela was a little hurt. Maybe she'll be a little bit more healthy. But last year, Poa is not coming to stop Malaysia from getting 24 and 17. So I don't see anybody on that team that's ready to deal with what she brings. Now, you got her cooking, and then you get a Tessa Johnson dropping them from 3 like she was. These 2 freshmen got really comfortable in the SEC tournament game, in this championship game. They finished the tournament game after all of the fiasco, after everything went crazy, after the sophomore, after the seniors and the cooler heads that they rely on were sent back. They had to figure out how to get it done for themselves, right? With no Cardoso, with no safety valve, they unlocked something there. And I didn't see that LSU had an answer. Now, maybe the answer is Jada Richard, but she's not coming till next year. So if we meet again this year, I don't see that y'all have an answer for Malaysia Fuwali. I also don't think that plantar fasciitis gets better in time for Michaela Williams to be at 100%. Will she be better? I hope that they treating her like crazy. Because it hurt every time you step with it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a lot for that freshman to be playing through. And then last year, Poa, when she takes the court again in competition, it's going to be a full 2 weeks or so since she played. Mm-hmm. So she's going to be trying to still get back into game shape, if you will. Like, everybody kind of will, but she won't have had this last game. And then she probably has been laying down, resting a lot with concussion protocol. I'm not sure if she's out of that yet and even practicing. So I think LSU played us really good that first game in Baton Rouge. That was a hostile environment. We gained some confidence there. But as a young freshman, when you go drop 24 in 17 minutes on the defending champ and walk away with the MVP and all tournament and the SEC tournament championship. I just feel like she can't wait to play again. And she had a moment where it was like, you know what? I know I belong now. And I don't see a response to that from LSU. But go ahead, coach.
No, I'm okay, and I'll give you that. As far as for Wiley, I agree. There's no answer. There's no lockdown person, but there are some people that can score points and try to offset those points. Now, I'll take you back to the first game, and I'm not going to keep going back to the first game, but I'm just making this point for a reason. First game, interestingly, Morrow led in points and rebounds. She had 16 points and 10 rebounds, which is interesting to me. So we flash forward to the last game. Again, very similar score. South Carolina gritted it out. Really, the grit came because of the melee. Let's be honest. South Carolina was pretty much in control of this game, even watching it. It was close, but it was kind of like you mentioned with Fuwali. Every time LSU kind of made a little bit of a push, it was like, okay, we can do this. So let's be clear about that. This wasn't one of those like the first game where literally last few minutes you were kind of like, okay, what's going to happen here? This one, 5 minutes left, you was like, South Carolina kind of had control of it. But just some of the in this game, hold on, let me get it right.
Well, let me jump in and say this real quick. When I'm looking at my team for what we did in this last game, I wouldn't expect Chloe Kitts to only have 6 points. I would not expect Camila Cardoso to be in single-digit points and rebounds again. I wouldn't expect Ashlyn Watkins to only have 3 points. I wouldn't expect Tessa Johnson to only have 4 points. And so you probably saying, well, damn, Cess, how did y'all win? Because my Malaysia Fuwali had 24.
Yeah, it's at 24.
So
yeah, that's true.
So 24-17, and like I said, y'all don't have an answer for her. This kid shot 8 for 12 from the floor, 4 from 5 from 3, 4 from 5 from 3, and 100% from free throw. This is a kid that have been shooting somewhere around 66% sometime at the free throw line. 100% for free throw. I'm talking about clicking at the right time. Everything is coming together. This is why we work with her. This is why we brought her along slowly. She almost beat LSU by herself with the way that she was able to get things done. So, yeah, Coach, I just, I expect everybody else is going to be motivated by Malaysia's play this last game, and I think they're going to be rocking. When I look at, Angel 15, Moral 19,
Moral 11
13,
scoring again. Yep.
Van Leith 14. They pretty much were where they are normally. And the game wasn't as close as the score would have you believe. I don't think, but
I'll agree with that. But here's what I'll say. You mentioned Michaela Williams. Michaela Williams coming back could change the narrative of this game. But she would have to come back. Let's be realistic at least 90%. She won't be 100, like you said, with plantar fasciitis. That's not.
But I'll also offer this about Michaela. I feel like Michaela's game got broke when she played us the first time. That freshman hasn't been the same since that game, to me. Now I may be missing something in the stats, but
no, I don't think you're missing something.
I feel like they were calling her name a lot more earlier in the season than they are now.
Well,
and so
yeah,
I feel like I don't know if it was confidence, if that's when the injury took place. I saw her take some threes in that game that I felt like she would want back. It reminded me of the Kobe threes in the playoffs. And somebody else said that maybe she's just not comfortable and happy in Louisiana. I'm not sure.
That's where I'm going with it. That's where I'm going with it. Right. Okay. I'm glad you
I'm
said
just
that.
saying, like I said, she doesn't seem like the same happy-go-lucky, I just love the game freshman that she was at the beginning of the season as she is now. And I feel like part of her joy is gone from playing the game. And so maybe it's just been a longer season than she's used to. And the plantar fasciitis kept her from hitting the wall. But just mentally, maybe she is exhausted with the season. I'm not sure, but
No, I think you're on to something on that, Sess. I mean, we highlighted when you highlighted the young lady that's coming to LSU, which is a great piece, by the way. I think you ought to go check that out. Sess did a great job with the young lady. Remind everybody her name again. You mentioned that's coming to LSU.
Jada Richard.
Jada Richard, please go check that piece out. Sess did an excellent job on breaking down her coming to LSU. But I only say that to say this. I think you're right about Michaela. Michaela comes from a winning culture. She doesn't know, like moments like these losing. I do agree with that. I think that the lights came on, and wasn't it Michaela or was it somebody that we were talking about looking to the side, like, what are we doing? Like, why am I getting the ball? Was that Flo J? Might have been Flo J.
No, Flo J came down and scored, and it was like, y'all need to be giving me the ball. But I agree with her there, and I think that the offense and everything looks different when it's running through Big Four. But Coach, I just I could see how you could pick all have all of these teams up here, but I just really think with the exception of SC, like I said, because we haven't seen them. I think that we have a lot of tape on everybody else. And I think the other thing that people forget is just Dawn is just, I believe, just a fan of basketball. So she probably just takes in a lot of hoops anyway. And then she's coached at so many different levels and in so many different situations, from international to college, to probably being almost like a player coach at the WNBA level in her last couple of years, I would say, there in Charlotte. So I think she's just well prepared for whatever they could cook up. But I could definitely see why you picked off four. So we just got a few minutes, Coach, but I want to give a quick update on and I will run through it really quickly here because I know you got to get out of here soon. But just really quickly, I want to give a rundown of our freshman phenoms and how we did with the ones that we picked. So I'm gonna start with Addie Brown, and a lot of people probably forgot Addie Brown because she was out there at Iowa State. Nobody was thinking about her, but she was a 6'2" freshman out of Derby, Kansas. Forward. I want you to hear her numbers: 13 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. She shot 47 from the floor on the season. Still a freshman that I would keep my eye on. Lost to Texas in the Big 12 conference championship. Addie Brown and Iowa State Cyclones. I know y'all do a lot of talking about that other Iowa team, but there's some basketball being played at Iowa State too. Madison Booker, Texas Longhorns. I just said, she finished the conference season here as the Big 12 champion. 6'1" freshman out of Ridgeland, Mississippi. Forward, 17 points. I'm just gonna round it up. 5 rebounds. I'm gonna round it up. 5 assists. I rounded it up. She shot 46 from the floor. Still a phenomenal freshman that I would keep my eyes on. Talia Scott. Interesting. They had a second round SEC tournament exit, I believe, at the hands of Auburn. 5'9" freshman out of Orange Park, Florida. 22 points, 3 rebounds, 1.5 assists, shot 40 from the floor. But as many of you probably know, missed a great deal of the season starting about mid-February with some emergency stuff going on back at home. And every time I mention her, I just, positive energy to her. Hope that all is well and she is able to get back on the court here soon. Michaela Williams, again, we just had a great conversation about Michaela. LSU Tigers finished as a loss in the SEC finals. She did finish the season with 14 points, about 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 47 from the floor. Again, a phenomenal freshman that we'll keep our eyes on. Juju Watkins, 6'2" freshman out of LA, California. 27 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 40% from the field. She won the Pac-12 championship, won the Pac-12 freshman of the year, was named tonight as the ESPN National Player of the Year, runner-up, and freshman of the year. That's Juju Watkins. And we've got Hannah Hidalgo, won ACC tournament, won the tournament MVP. She averaged 19.3, 6, and 2 in her conference tournament. 5'6" freshman out of Haddonfield, New Jersey. 23 points on the season, 6 rebounds. I'm going to give her 6 assists, and she shot 45 from the floor. My freshman of the year, as far as the SEC tournament is, as far as the SEC is concerned, my lady Fuwiley. Can't say enough about this kid, 5'10" freshman out of Columbia, South Carolina. Like I said, we won the SEC tournament. She was the MVP of the tournament. all tournament team. She averaged 11.8 points, 2.9 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 44.4 from the floor, and she played maybe just about 19 minutes. So the phenomenal freshman that is on my watch all the time, Malaysia Fuwiley, Hannah Hidalgo after that, Juju Watkins, and then all the rest of these ladies. You can't go wrong with giving their games a look. They definitely will be fun to watch going on for the next 4 years. Coach, I know you got to get out of here. I want to say that we are still on our push for 1,000 subscribers, y'all. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, like the video, share the conversation, y'all. Stay in the conversation with us. I'm live tonight, 9 o'clock, for just hanging out with the fam. We're going to talk everything women's hoops. Coach, if you got some time, get in the chat, jump on. We'll see how it goes. It's your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies. Until next time, stay tuned. Talk soon. We out.
Later. Listen to Coach.
Peace.